Alright, hello folks, I'm Ellie Little and this is your daily TA wrap, where we take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective, each time asking ourselves, what happened today and what does it tell us about the coming ones? I do this show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the beautiful Rocky Mountains. And folks, I had some audio and video transmission problems at the top of the hour, so I'm just doing another live show. So if you're joining me here, you can ask questions. I am live, and we'll record this particular version of the TA Today Daily Wrap. As for today, what happened? Well, the markets were down, the Russell down the most, and what is that telling us really? I mean, the fact that the Russell keeps selling off, the fact that the Russell's 1.5% negative on the year, when the S&P is up almost 7. You know, what does that say? Well, it says that they don't want risk, right? They're taking a risk because the Russell's more risky than the S&P. So we're taking the risk off and we're moving to the safety. We don't want to leave the market, but we don't want to leave ourselves hanging out there with more risk. So we take that off. And so that's what's happening here, has been happening, happened earlier in the year, happening now. It's a continuation of what we've seen in these markets, and that continuation is I want to be in the markets, but I don't want to take too much risk. Elsewhere, USO up 1%, nice big move there. It's actually got some volume, looking pretty good. Going to try to do another push up. It's in a large range. We can look at it later if you want. The UNL actually going the opposite direction, down 1.5%, and that one has taken out most of the lows. Dollar was flat, gold, silver up a little bit. And we also have, that parallel that we're talking about here in the S&P 500. We also have elsewhere in this market, and that is that if we look over, and I'm going to pop to that straight, if we look over at the risky corporate bond debt, which is corporate bonds, junk bonds, those corporate bonds have sold off heavy. Right, and if you look at them on a weekly, they broke on a swing point low on the weekly potentially if they stay down here, and they've certainly broke with force on the dailies. Contrast that to the high quality corporate bonds, right? A very different picture. You can see here on the high quality corporate bonds, these things are still hanging in a nice range and potentially can attack the tops. And you can see that here as well. Very different picture. It parallels what we were just talking about with the Russell and the S&P 500, and that is that risk off, right? Put something, we want to stay in these high quality bonds. We want that kind of yield. The yield on the corporate bonds that are junk grade are just not worth it. We're not going to stay in those, so we move to something higher quality. Folks, there's no yield anywhere. That's why everybody keeps staying with everything. They can't leave it. They don't have a choice. Back to the indexes, S&P 500, second bar, inside bar. We got inside bars on almost everything tonight, which basically tells us nothing, right? Inside bar on Friday, mostly a takeaway bar, inside bar again today on the S&P 500s. That's the same thing on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's the same thing on the NASDAQ Composite, inside bars. You had an inside bar again on the NDX today, slightly, a little doji at the highs. And on the Russell, it was also an inside bar. So inside bars everywhere. Inside bars really tell you nothing because they can go either way. So what do you use to decide which way it's going to go? Well, you use the trend. And what's the trend in most cases? Up, both here domestically and abroad in most of the overseas indexes, which kind of segues me to the overseas markets. And if you just joined me, I am doing this live, so you happen to be catching a live show tonight. We had some video issues at the top of the hour, so I'm just re-recording in a live version. So if you do come on late, you actually happen to be catching me, you can ask questions if you want to text me or email me or type them in into the window there. As far as the overseas markets, let's pop over there. I want to show you the DAX. This one is the one that's in danger of breaking down. You're underneath the swing point low. You have less volume. That's a suspect break to the downside today. And it gets under that retest regen on the third attempt. Third attempt, odds are pretty good you're going to try to break it down. That's exactly what's happening here. This has a lot to do with what's happening, of course, in the Ukraine and Europe proper. ABCD structure potentially can take it all the way back to these lows. That's the setup here. Tomorrow this thing has to flip around, or that's going to be the higher probability case of what's going to happen. Now, if you look at the rest of the European markets, the big three, high volume lows still here comparatively on the CAC. Looks like it wants to test it tomorrow. The FTSE, same sort of thing, although it's stronger. These markets don't look as bad as the DAX. They do look like they can test lower, which the DAX does too. But tomorrow's kind of a critical day, in my opinion, with respect to those markets. If you look over in Asia, you've got some breakouts taking place. The All Ordinaries breaks out over the two swing points high. That's multiple swing point breakout. That looks to try to go higher. In Brazil, you got this surge going on now. This ABCD structure going to take it a little bit higher. This looks very similar to what we saw in India, where you're going to kick out the incumbent on the elections and bring in a new government, and they just buy up stocks in front of it. The Toronto Exchange broke out on Friday. It's hanging up at the highs. If I look over at the Asian stocks, the Hong Kong market still hanging at the highs. The H shares actually pulled back, but look like they are going to try to flip back around. Nikkei was closed, so nothing there. I saw the Indonesia Strait Times breaks out tonight, broke out on Friday, and actually a little doji tonight, so probably get a retrace there, but probably going to hold now. And so overseas markets pretty strong. So you've got inside bars, two and singles and doubles on the indexes on most of the sectors. The only sector strong is this, looks like it wants to go higher, is the XLK. The rest of them, kind of inside days, who knows. So you defer to the trend, you defer to the overseas markets. That says we're probably going to try to trade higher come tomorrow and the next day probably. So that, and the problem is you've got three things at work here. You got earnings, you've got exogenous, although they're not exogenous anymore because they're known, but you've got the geopolitical events that could tear at this market in the Ukraine, still in Iraq, although that's not front page right now, and also in Israel with the situation with the Hamas, where they're fighting those guys. So, there's a lot of flare-up possibilities around the world in hot spots that could affect. And then you've got PMI numbers coming out Wednesday and Thursday around the world, which are going to give us another read on how the economy is going to do, and that's a big part of what's happening right now. So those three things, and if we talk about those three things and we think about them tonight, you had some earnings after the bell, so let's look at some of these earnings. You had two high flyers report after the bell. One was Netflix. It was up about 1%, but that doesn't really do anything. This thing's up here in this range. You had a lower range up underneath it. Came down and tested that lower side, wouldn't break it down. A little pop up today on some volume. Looks to me like it's going to test the highs. I don't know that it can get over it, but that's what it's going to try to do. The big one tonight was CMG, which is Chipotle. Chipotle had been trading sideways here, consolidating. Chipotle had a pretty good pullback on the weekly, and now back also towards the highs. Tonight up 50 bucks over the highs, 9%. It's going to blow away the highs, start another leg up. When you look at Chipotle, this was a wide range structure inside of it. You essentially had, let's do that again. So you essentially had the two ranges here, one up underneath it, and then you could count this one, although it was a breakout range. So you kind of had three of them. This thing, if it does another one, right, you can just tack on another one up there and expect it to try to get to the highs. So that's Chipotle. The reason I bring these up, these are not the big caps, but they're the big sales growth type stocks, right? Run and gun type stocks. When they do well, the market likes to put more risk on, so we may see a little bit of that risk creep back in tomorrow as a result of these good earnings. Now, let's go back and look at some that are coming out tomorrow. Tomorrow, the big number, of course, is going to be Apple. Apple's pushed up at the highs, hanging up here at the highs. Apple had a 20% run already, about 20 to 25%. It's been consolidating up here, and if you look at Apple, you kind of got two ranges going on as well. You have this top range and you have the one underneath it. So the question tomorrow will be is, does it want to visit this one, or does it want to try to break out of that one? And so that will be the test tomorrow. So if you're looking at Apple, it means nothing inside this, other than the fact that if it gets down inside here somewhere, it's probably going to try to get back to the bottom. But Apple, you know, the question is can it get over these or under these ranges? So Apple's the big number tomorrow. You actually had Texas Instruments tonight, but that one doesn't look like it's going to do anything. It was down slightly tonight. That's in the chip sector, of course. Elsewhere tomorrow, you've got some other big names coming out. We'll just flip through a few of these and take a look at them. So we got Microsoft as well. Remember, Microsoft pushed up off the Intel news. Then they got the $19,000 job cuts. That pushed it some more. Sold off on that by the end of the day, but it left a high volume high. So here on Microsoft, you've actually got a pretty good setup coming into earnings if you want to buy. And that setup is this. You've got these two ranges, and there's a good possibility the way this is set up. It's tested down here 2 days, couldn't do anything with it. It looks to me like it's going to try to test that top tomorrow on the earnings. So if it pulled back tomorrow, if the market was weak early, that might not be a bad buy, but you have to assume you will buy back here because you got a nice support zone right there. You can see the green on the charts. It's pointing it out to you just as well as I can. You can see that green. It's saying, hey, buyers will show up or should show up in this area. They should show up in this area, and they have been. And lo and behold, if they get lower, they definitely should show up there. So you've got three areas of good support, really good support. Microsoft is probably going to go higher. It's just a question of, can you get a better buy-in here? If it traded down here one more day, you'd probably get a pop tomorrow and allow you to make some money on it just off the earnings. And I don't usually suggest buying anything into earnings, but that one's actually set up pretty well. Verizon actually looks like it wants to go higher on earnings. So it's up here, it's over the highs, it's consolidating. Put it on a weekly. You can see it's back up to attack those highs. It looks to me like it's going to attack them. Got an ABCD structure in place. That would take it over the highs, right? So that Verizon actually set up pretty nicely as well. And Coca-Cola set up nicely too. Here's an ABCD structure here. Coca-Cola looks to me like it's going to try to pop higher. It's already over two swing point highs. It's going to go after this one. It's consolidated here for 4 or 5 weeks now. And if we bring that one back, put it on a daily, you can see how it's consolidating here, and the volume tails are good as it comes into that high. This one looks like it's going to pop up tomorrow. Comcast is a different story. Comcast actually looks like it's going to try to trade back down. There's not much happening here on the daily, not looking particularly interesting. But if you look at it on the weekly, it tested the highs, failed. That looks to come back. So if you look at the big caps tomorrow, those are the numbers. There are a couple more. Let's look at those real quick. McDonald's is another big name. And weeklies, this looks like it's going to find support right here where you see the green. So the T8-day charts look like they're calling it out pretty well. So probably sell off into that and then maybe bounce from there. Let's see what the daily looks like. So you broke a swing point low, you're extended, you've already done your ABCD structure down. So yeah, I would stick with that view. This looks to me like it is going to set up. So you had nested ABCD structures, both of those completed, and you've already extended. This looks like it's going to set up a bounce on McDonald's, and Philip Morris is the last. Well, there's actually one more. Philip Morris. I'm just taking the biggest ones because they're the ones that matter right now. This is on the daily. They had a ruling against tobacco companies today that I thought, let me see, Philip Morris, let me get the weekly up. Yeah, that's consolidating at the top. That actually looks like it's going to try to go higher, or at least it's going to hang there. I don't know about higher, probably hang there. Maybe a little retrace. Last one is Lockheed Martin. This one's been consolidating. So this had a huge run up from 103 to 168. That's a 65% move over 7-8 months. Now you consolidate, go sideways for about 5. This is set up so it can go higher. You got some volume at the top. It does look like it's going to bounce back up there and test it. Looking at the weekly, let's see what the daily looks like, and that also looks like it could do the same. So your volume bars are pushing to the top side, and now you've set up what looks like an ABCD structure to take you back up, right, on earnings to potentially take you back up to the top. So most of those, if you were with me there, most of those look like they're going to try to trade higher. So earnings again tomorrow look like they're going to be positive for this market, not negative. Okay, so let's see. I've got one email, and I see some questions being popped up on the board, so I'll look at those. So I want to take the email first so I don't forget it. I did cover it in the first show, but in case the gentleman that was asking wasn't watching, I'm going to repeat it in this one. Now, I am doing this live because we had some video recording issues earlier, and the stock that was asked, or actually the ETF that was asked about, was well, let me find it here, corn. And the question was, how would I set up a strategy to bottom fish this? And so let me bring corn up and show that to you. So here we go. So here's corn. So the first thing I would note is that when you have a big, and this is true on all time frames. I'm going to just show you quickly the time frames. There's the weekly, here's the monthly. So the downtrend is in effect, right? When you have a downtrend and you want to bottom fish, what you want, in a general way, let me just point it out. What you want is you want some sort of consolidation that takes place over some period of time. On a daily, you'd like to see 6-7 weeks of this, right? And during that period of time, while it's consolidating, you want to see it test this top side 2 or 3 times at least. And as it tests that top side, and I'm going to show you an example of how it was trying to do it right here. It was trying to consolidate here. You can kind of see it. It was trying to consolidate, and during that period of time, what you want to see is you want to see when it pushes higher, like here and here, you get volume spikes up. You don't want to see volume spikes when it comes back down to test the lows. So that's the first thing. That's one thing you're looking for. The second thing you're looking for is you want to see some sort of reversal to trade off of. So after this thing consolidates, you want to see that second or third time down, just like these bars. You come down, you test, you can't make a new low, you flip back around, and you close back over that prior one. When you see that, that's telling you that potentially you're going to get some buyers. Then if you see some nice volume bars come in, that tells you you're getting near the end. You don't have that yet. You kind of had that starting here, but then it broke down. Once it broke down, of course, it blew everything out. Volume expands tremendously. Everybody gets blown out. Now you get a little doji reversal here. This may set up some sort of consolidation for a while, but it's going to take a while before you're ever going to get a trade in this. So, if you want to watch it, you watch it. If you want a 2 or 3 day trade, that's all you're going to get with these. But you don't want to hang around very long until this thing actually shows you a bottom. And so far, there's nothing in place. And if I even look here on the weekly, this thing's showing you an ABCD structure that can take it way down, quite a ways down. And actually, this is arithmetic, takes it down to about 20, takes it down to about $15. I don't think it's going to get to 15. You need to do this on something beside arithmetic. Do it on a what's the word I'm looking for? Percentage move. Right, so whatever that percentage move is, that's the way you want to calculate that ABCD structure. But this is going lower probably, and you don't want to mess with it. All right, let's take some of these up on the boards here. You can text me 303-912-9110. I am doing this live, and if you want to text me, that would be fine. Or you can support at TA Today. You can send an email, and you can do that out of hours, just like that question on corn. So ARWR KNDI-STX. Let's see what these guys look like. So ARWR, Arrowhead Research. Now, mind you, I'm doing this blind. I don't know when the earnings are. So you have to take earnings into account on anything you're doing right now. So be sure and don't forget about that. So you have a swing point low. You break under one, now you're testing the other, you're under, back over, less volume. Okay, so that normally is a reversal, but what's the problem? Well, the problem is you got to go do a retest regen off of this bar now. You will be coming back within 6 bars, so that's good. But that only gives you like a 50-50 chance. So I don't know that I would want to try to do much with this right now. Let's look at it here on a weekly. All right, that high was 27.63. So notice your high was tested and failed. You went over it, back under it after an extended move. That gives you a pullback. And then notice the other problem potentially, and that is that you potentially have, and actually I drew that wrong, you potentially have an ABCD down, right, that could take you quite a bit lower. So be careful here. I don't see a trade in this on the long side. So that would be my first look at that one. That would be my the ideal there. I don't know that I'd want to trade it. Candy Technologies. Isn't this the electric cars in China, I believe? So you're testing the highs. I'm on the weekly now, 1913. And you're going into them. 2240, 2222. Okay, so you're testing the highs, you had volume at the highs, and you pushed up there with volume. So this week is an important test. Can you get over this and continue on? If you do, this thing can get a whole nother leg up again. Right now, I'd make it prove it to me on the weekly. And on the monthly, you got the same thing. And on the monthly, it looks pretty good too. So this is a real possibility. I would just make it prove it can break out. Otherwise, you're going to be buying it at the high, and you don't want to do that. So let it prove it can break out. Otherwise, buy the retrace. Where's the retrace? Well, actually, the TA Today charts are showing you pretty well here, this support zone. And you're probably going to get another one right up here tonight, right up underneath this. So I'd make this one prove it can break higher. You do have ABCD structures up that measure a little bit higher here. So you've got this one up, right, that would take you on up higher. But I would make it prove itself on the weekly. And so I would be watching this one this week and see if it really starts to leg higher. And so the question I asked was, is it that car company in China? And yes, it is. And then the last one is STX. I believe this is storage technology, or not storage, but Seagate. So a disk drive maker comes down, has some volume, and they've already had their earnings. And you're a member, aren't you, or are you not? Because I have shared trade list that I think I have this one on this month. Let me pop it up and look. So I have shared trade lists that I look at all these stocks as they report, and bullish or bearish, I call them out. And this one is on that trade list. I did review it, and I called it bearish from here. So let's take a look at it on the weekly. Okay, so here was the reason for it. And what I do, folks, I've got a shared watch list. Anybody that's a member of TA Today Tools, this list is shared. They can look on it. They can see what's happening, and they can see my calls on these post-earnings plays. So why would I call this one bearish? Well, The key thing here is you came into this breakdown bar, right? You tested it here, you had no volume. You come back into it, you have even less volume or about the same. You test into it again, you fell again. Now you have earnings. Now on the earnings, what do? Well, they sell it down a little bit on the earnings and the volumes expand. This doesn't look to me like it's going to be able to get over that bar. At best, I think it's going to consolidate more. So at best, you probably have some sort of consolidation. But at worst, that's a failure, right? The consolidation is in here right now. At worst, it's a failure, and you're going to come back down, test this low, and you got 3 of them lined up. If that breaks, you're all the way back down here. So this is not one to tread, to ignore the possibility of this thing selling off. I'd be very careful if you're trying to go long here. So if you're a new member, yeah, sure, you have access to those lists, and the way you do them, in case you're not familiar with it, is you come to our tools. You go to the watch list, and I don't know if I'm logged in here or not. Let me log myself in. So once you log in, you come to the watch list, you pop down, and you're going to see, because I'm logged in, I'm going to see them up here for myself. You're going to see them down here in the shared watch list, and they're going to show up as LA Little and earnings 2014-07. So I do them month by month. You just click in there, and you can see all the data associated with them. And if you need some help, you just click on the help button. You can pop over to the videos. There's special watch lists. I describe them all here for you, what they are, what are all the signals that are in there, because I got programs that populate all this for you. You can download this, sort it with Excel and so forth. So I've given you a lot of flexibility, but most importantly, I'm giving you all the trade signals and all the post earnings watch list on a month by month basis to give you the best trades that I see that are available to you. Because we can't make every trade, and you may not like the trades I make. So, part of this is for you to have the opportunity to take any trades that make sense for you. All right, I'm running out of time here. Thanks for the questions, and I guess that worked out well for a few of you, me doing the show twice. Have yourself a great night. I'll see you next time. I'm LA. This is, and it was, your daily TA wrap. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night, folks.